AskReddit by AgilPosh. What's the cringiest thing you've seen a bride and groom do for their wedding? Long ago I worked at a banquet hall and witnessed a fully NASCAR themed wedding. During the reception they played the audio of the proposal going out over the PA at the track. It was fully unintelligible. BZZT-GBAGBGRMRRRY MESRUHUAWVRUM. Other highlights were the owner locking himself in his office to avoid the bride's father because he was threatening him to haggle on the costs. In the end we had to call the police because the bride in gown climbed over the bar to steal more sweet MGD after we had closed the taps and the event was over. In-laws wedding and all groomsmen were wearing a tux and a ball cap. The groom had a dip of tobacco in during the wedding and I shit you not. His groom's cake was designed like a Copenhagen can. I was a photographer for a wedding where the bride was marrying a man with 2 kids from a previous relationship. I was in the bridal suite when the bridal party was getting ready and all of the bridesmaids had matching silk robes. The flower girl, groom's daughter, was there too. They asked me to take a group photo of the bridal party and one of the women in a silk robe was standing awkwardly to the side. I thought she was just shy or something so I waved her into the photo and the room got dead silent and the bride was like, oh no, we don't want her in the photos and glared at me like I should have known that. Apparently she was the groom's ex-wife and was there to take care of the flower girl, but why did you give her a matching bridesmaid robe? I wanted to crawl in a hole and die. That poor ex. And that poor daughter who has no doubt figured out that her stepmother can't stand her mom. At my cousin's wedding, they did the thing where the groom removes the bride's garter and tosses it to all the single guys. I guess none of the guys wanted to be next to be married, because once the groom tossed the garter, no one grabbed it. It just landed on the ground a few feet in front of a crowd of motionless guys. The groom tossed the garter 3 times before one guy half-heartedly picked it off the ground. The bride wouldn't look at any of those guys for the rest of the night. It's such an outdated tradition. I've been to a wedding where something similar happened with the bouquet toss and all the ladies backed away when the bouquet was thrown. The DJ ended up making a joke about it though and everyone had a good, slightly awkward, laugh. My uncle not only brought up his daughter's ex-boyfriend in his speech but talked about their toxic relationship for a solid 5 minutes. I highly recommend preparing a speech before talking in front of a room full of people. I went to a wedding where, during the speeches, the father of the bride made mention to the bride's first husband. Then went on and on about how great the first husband is and how the groom had a lot to measure up to. It was his entire speech. Not the couple, the pastor kept saying our heavenly father, daddy God, while marrying them. Edit, thanks for the gold. For context, it was a military wedding. It was just the couple and the pastor, it was live streamed on Twitch, and the pastor was probably about 25. It was in Hawaii. He was wearing flip-flops, and a lei made of fake flowers. That's the weirdest shit I've ever heard. He probably thought he was so slick having a unique thingy. Requiring every attendee to bring a date because she didn't want sad, lonely people on her day. Not my friends luckily, but pretended to be a friend's date because she really wanted to see her cousin get married. Potluck wedding with no alcohol or music. Groom kept showing people his flask and bragging about it. Macaroni was only redeemable thing. When I went to scoop there was hair in it. Very sad. At the reception, the groom and his groomsmen sung a god-awful a cappella version of Stand By Me. The worst part was he wasn't even singing it to his wife. He was singing it to his mum. Oh darling, darling, stand by me. Chinese weddings, man. Deleted. IDK, but one of my favorite memories from years of cater waitering was this long Indian wedding where they had a lot of random relatives get up to give a toast. Everyone's giving these long speeches and then one uncle gets up, goes I made him waffles once and sits back down. I swear to God bless that man, wherever he is. Toasts in general are usually terrible and full of cringe. Just keep it short, sweet, And genuine, no one wants 15 minutes of inside jokes that are embarrassing and don't make sense. Dated a girl in my 20s and went to her friend's wedding in upstate New York. In the middle of the service the minister's cell phone rang. He answered. It was God. God wanted to talk to the groom. Conversation lasted a couple minutes, then the ceremony continued. I think they should have given the congregants a turn on the phone too. I mean, this isn't an opportunity that comes along every day. The minister, or pastor, used to date the bride and gushed about how wonderful she was. Told the groom if he ever died not to worry, he'd take care of her. I was shell-shocked. I so wished I could think of a reason to ask the couple for a copy of the video of their wedding but couldn't quite find a legit one. OMG, why would they choose this officiant? I wasn't a guest, I was working the wedding. The bride got drunk and sat on some other dude's lap for 2 hours and flirted with him while the groom sat by himself at the head table with a defeated look on his face. This might be the most depressing one yet. Speeches. My god, the speeches. Here's the backstory. The reception was scheduled for right after the ceremony but at a different location. We couldn't eat until the wedding party got there. They showed up 2 hours late because they were cruising around on the party bus and drinking. After showing up they decided to do the speeches before dinner. Speeches from the best man, the maid of honor, a few parents and random people. I've never listened to so much boring crap. It took more than an hour to get through them all. So basically everyone sat around with no music and no food for 3 hours. The bar wouldn't open either so we had only water to drink. Nearly everyone, including me, left after eating. It was disrespectful to their guests. I worked as a wedding videographer. This is the only Bridezilla I encountered in 10 years. This girl was so self-centered she kept everyone waiting at her outdoor ceremony for more than an hour while she was pampered in the makeup chair. While she's having them redo this and touch up that, she's sort of making up her wedding vows in a very relaxed, casual manner completely inappropriate for the 100 people sweating and a full summer sun waiting on her. Her aunt came in and very gently reminded her people were waiting on her and that it's been more than an hour and she threw a tantrum, screaming, I feel like everyone's forgetting this is my day. Eventually she comes out, vows are lame and borderline incoherent, and one of the groomsmen, sweltering in a coat and vest and shirt and sun, passes out from heat exhaustion. The officiant whispers to ask the couple if they should stop and make sure he's okay and she goes, nah, he's just being dramatic, keep going. As the couple is headed back up the aisle, an ambulance can be seen arriving to tend to the poor overheated groomsmen. Not wedding but engagement ceremony. They reenacted a scene from an old romantic film about two lovers in 1800s. In front of like 300 people. Deleted. Deleted. Gross. They sang their vows to each other. Neither had a singing voice. Vows were generally batshit crazy, like submissive in the bedroom, and not asking about where she was going. The auto-tune microphones were a terrible idea. Their vow songs shared a chorus and it was awful and they expected the guests to sing along with the chorus. The vows singing lasted 20 minutes. Pure cringe. Everclear, my friend. My friend got pregnant at 20 with a piece of shit guy so they got married. It was me, our friend, her mom and then just the two of them. They got married in some random lady's house. We sat on computer chairs in a small living room with the lady's dog sniffing us and barking. The whole thing lasted maybe 5 or 10 minutes. After we proceeded to take wedding pictures in the parking lot of a dollar store and then we got McDonald's. I made a little bouquet out of some ferns and leaves that were in the McDonald's parking lot. She threw the bouquet and it ended up getting run over by someone going to the drive-thru. Lol, needless to say, it was a trashy affair and their marriage didn't last long. It's a tie between my sister breaking her knee, seriously, at her own wedding dancing to the Cotton Eye Joe and my stepsister having her reception at an honest to God truck stop while 6 months pregnant. In her defense, The food was good, but wow was it weird walking through a gas station in formal wear. Please elaborate on the truck stop reception. Serve macaroni and cheese only to the bridal party. Everyone else got mashed potatoes. I was a hostess, so I got macaroni and cheese. After tasting it, there was no way in hell they would have broken the bank preparing enough for everyone. It was just really tacky because people were asking for it and I told them I didn't know much about it, I am just following directions. I went to a wedding with my ex a few years back. It was one of his fraternity brother's wedding, and apparently the bride's parents were ridiculously conservative. So conservative that they have super edited versions of every song the DJ played, including bleeping out the word shots from Shots by LMFAO. Also, it was a dry wedding, so this rendition of the song was almost too on the nose. Lol, I don't know why they think censoring popular songs at a reception is going to do any good. When my cousin got married several years back, they played Get Low at the reception, the edited version, and of course you couldn't hear the censored lyrics over everyone on the dance floor hollering the real ones. Good lord, the exuberant joy with which a bunch of drunk white people shout skeet skeet emo tharfucker. Deleted. I think I went to this wedding. Right after the officiant asked if anyone objects to speak now or hold your peace, did a dog start crazily barking. Yeah. They also gave mini bottles of booze as table gifts and the mog took all of them. It was something else. Edit. I have no idea why the poster deleted. Her original post said that the groom handwrote long intimate sappy vows that he read from, and then after his monologue the bride giggled and said that oh. To be fair, that is not exactly how it went down at the wedding I went to, but pretty dang close. She then replied to the above post I made by saying that there was a kiddo who ate confetti thinking it was food and threw up everywhere. As far as I know, that did not happen at the wedding I went to. I am so sorry everyone, but there is no internet meeting Kismet today. At least not for me and the now redacted poster. I am a little worried that there are at least 2 relationships in the world where the groom was seemingly way more invested than the bride. I prefer cute cringe over sad. Invite all their Facebook friends and expect 700 people and like less than 100 show up. A guy knew a couple who didn't specifically invite anyone, just made like a public event on FB or somehow assumed people would know when where it was and show up. They were confused and offended when almost nobody came. Oh, I have 2. 1. The bride decided to sing as she walked down the aisle. She was not a particularly talented singer, and she was singing over a Carrie Underwood song so we could all hear the original vocal track. She finished walking about halfway through the song and then stood there and sang the rest of the song at the groom, and all we could do was sit there and watch. 2. Different wedding. They began the wedding with the groom playing an out-of-tune guitar and singing to the bride. They were sitting on chairs in front of everyone, legit 400 people, and the bride was clearly uncomfortable, which made everyone else uncomfortable. That wedding also included a foot washing ceremony, and when the bride put her shoes back on she tripped on her dress and fell flat on her face. They hadn't done the vows yet and the ceremony stopped for 20 minutes to deal with the nosebleed she gave herself. Tell me the Carrie Underwood song was Before He Cheats. That's a great wedding song. Deleted. Dude, you are the best man. That's the type of thing a legendary best man does. Your friend made a good choice. You were totally there for them on their big day. When I was at a wedding of my parents' friends, the groom tried to throw a decently sized piece of cake at the bride who moved out of the way. The cake ended up hitting my 76-year-old grandma. We all had a good laugh, but we were all cringing at the same time at the missed cake attempt. Bride shows up almost 2 hours late to her own wedding. Southern California in an open field, no water, no shade. She shows up and wants to get married in her yoga outfit. The groom shut it down, and when she refused to change her clothes the groom decided to leave her looking stupid and they never got married. Edit. I spoke with my uncle and it turns out he had speculation that his fiancée was sleeping with her personal trainer. When she showed up in her yoga outfit it was all he needed to call off the wedding. She ended up married to her personal trainer and divorced again. Good call on the groom's part. The ceremony also was the name reveal. They changed their last name because they didn't want to be stuck to their heritage and didn't want anything to hold them back. Turns out they changed their name thinking they could erase their mountains of debt or at least hide from it. Turns out you can't live under two legal identities. I've known a few couples who've changed their name to something distinct, that is neither partner's original last name. But they meant it as a symbol of their relationship, not a way of hiding from a credit rating. My mom and Mill insisted on doing a stutch, a bit of theatre often to mock the bride and groom by showing embarrassing pictures from their childhood. Cringeworthy all by itself, but we explicitly asked them not to and they went against our wishes. So when they performed their stutch everyone was annoyed and embarrassed. When we finally made it through that ordeal we wanted THD party to resume, but my Mill did another stutch and we were about ready to kill her. Ah yes, the stutch, the most feared part of any wedding or gathering. Very rarely is it actually funny or entertaining, most of the time just so goddamn annoying. This is my dad's story. He went to his friend's daughter's wedding reception. Before coming in, the bride and groom had this whole scene of them looking for each other. The guests watched it on a giant screen inside. Update, I asked my dad. It was live streamed. They then entered through opposite entrances, met in the middle and did a little dance with their friends. They then had their first dance. Looking for each other? Like, a film of them just where's Waldoing each other? Instead of throwing rice, or confetti, or sprinkles, or anything like that, the bride and groom asked their friends to save all their empty jewel pods and throw those as they walked down the aisle. The friends obliged. Edit, I posted a ref source equals link of a friend's Snapchat from the wedding on our trash a while ago. Please chuck garbage at us as we leave the church sure sets a tone for the marriage. They made this whole scenario where the bride was like a damsel in distress and the groom was James Bond and he got on a zipline and did this whole thing to save her and then kiss her. They even put the 007 music and everything. It was brutal to watch. The groom sang his vows. I honestly had to stare at the floor and slow breath to not laugh and get through it. My cousin did this. He played the guitar while singing his vows. He doesn't know how to play the guitar or sing. I was debating whether or not to share this story. My aunt and her current husband had their wedding at an old movie theater. It started off a little rocky with the officiant wearing full goth attire. They read each other's vows, and after that the groom announced he had written a song about my aunt. He's in a rock band. He then proceeded to play an electric guitar and sing a song about having sex with her, how good she tastes, and detail vulgar sex acts while on stage. Meanwhile the goth officiant played the drums. Keep in mind both of them have children who are on stage and our family is watching this, including the bride's dad. Once he was done, they mixed different flavors of alcohol into a margarita glass to show that they are now one and made out. My brother and I left shortly after and attended the wedding dinner that took place 4 hours later. That was equally as crazy. Safe to say we don't talk to them very much. Bride takes 3 hours to appear. After the ceremony, she and her spouse go up in an air balloon. The marriage did not last a year. Well, aside from the 2 hours late part, that could be cool. I live in Britain and as a child there was a show on CBBC, children's BBC, just like this. The show was called Marrying Mum and Dad. Oh lord, I hate that show. It's about these kids who get to arrange their parents' wedding. They choose the theme, the entertainment, and the cake. Naturally, the kids were always making absolutely horrible occasions, because what did you expect? They would choose a ridiculous theme for the wedding, Australia, medieval, space, clowns, and have everyone arrive dresses appropriately. Then they make the couple do some activity or another. It ranges from bungee jumping to VR, for entertainment. Then they have the wedding and eat the cake. The worst part is that the parents have no clue what's happening. They don't know anything until the day, and the children will go out of their way to make them uncomfortable, making them eat bugs for entertainment. Capital E. I miss the terrible show where the kids got to redecorate the house and they'd just fill it with slides. My sister, F18, and my Bill, M18, got married basically as soon as they were both legal. Neither one of them could drink the champagne at the reception, which was just fine because they only got 2 bottles for a wedding party of 50 people, so everyone basically got a drop. But the real cringe was the reception menu. Uncrustables, option of grape or strawberry, with oranges and grapes on paper plates with some kind of punch. Absolutely no refills. I wish I was kidding. I know a guy who recently made his lackeys, sorry friends, compete to be his best man. Most pretentious thing I have ever seen. Watching them grovel was so upsetting to me. I really hope when he told them all what he was doing he signed off by saying may the best man win. I was at a wedding when I was 8 and instead of the bride and groom getting up to make their speech thanking everyone, they had done like an awards show. So the DJ opened up an envelope, announced their names, they were handed an award statue, a Barbie and Ken doll, and proceeded to thank everyone in the form of an awards speech. In the right hands, it would have been funny, but the bride and groom are incredibly shy by nature, so it was just awkward. I'm in my 30s now and I still remember this. That sounds oddly cute, actually. But definitely cringe-worthy. My wife and I don't dance, so we hadn't danced together before our wedding dance. Loved it, but it was cringe-worthy. We did 10 dance lessons which helped, but it was still cringe. I used to videotape weddings, so I've seen it all. This one couple from New Jersey were the spitting image of Snooki and JWoww's ex-husband, Roger. They were super into appearances and very over-the-top gaudy. During their church ceremony, they had their very white 60-years-old uncle, with Native American feathers tied into his hair, stand up and chant around the church giving what I can only assume was some kind of blessing. It was so weird and out of place. I assume they wanted to seem deep during their ceremony. They mixed colored sand together in a vase too. A younger couple at a wedding I attended thought it was a really good idea to get on the husband's sport bike with cans and shit dangling off the back of it after drinking during the celebration. He popped the clutch and was attempting to do a burnout with her on the back. Things got caught in the chain. The bike bucked both of them off, and they spent their honeymoon recovering in the IQ. Flew away in a helicopter at the end, but there were only appetizers for food. I worked at a wedding once and the groom decided the day before he wanted to arrive by helicopter. Told the wedding planner to sort it out. I felt sorry for her. Gets to 3 PM when the guests are supposed to be there for. Obviously everyone isn't and there's barely anyone there. They fly in like James fucking Bond, land in the rear garden, put the back of this huge country manor, get out all smug, then realize there's no one there. So they then have to fly away again, hide behind a tree and wait for an hour for everyone to arrive to repeatedly the process. Who was that helicopter ride really for? I went to a potluck wedding. The attendees kept all the food in their hot cars while at church, then when we moved to the event hall they brought it all in to be served. Potato and macaroni salad after being in a hot car for an hour. Delish. Those were the high-end dishes. Some attendees brought 2 liters of soda or bags of chips. At the same wedding they also had a dollar dance. Everyone lines up and pays for the chance to dance with the bride. They pin dollars onto her dress. They ran out of pins, so she started stuffing dollar bills into her bra. My family is from an area in PA where the dollar dance is common. Perhaps less so these days, but the money goes in a basket and you get a shot of whiskey, sometimes a cigar, and you dance with the bride just long enough to compliment and congratulate her. Also, anybody putting less than a $20 in the basket would be taken out back and beaten. For some reason after the bride and groom kissed at a wedding I was at, the groom, a big douche to begin with, took a pair of hillbilly teeth out of his mouth and screamed, "I did it again, boys." I felt so sorry for the bride. IDK what she ever saw in the guy. They are now divorced. Edit. Hillbilly teeth are those fake inserts that look super nasty you get from a party or gag store. I will also clarify he was belligerent drunk, barely able to stand, and no one still to this day knows what he meant when he screamed, "We did it again, boys." I don't think he knew either. I hope this clears some stuff up for you all. I don't get it. Not the bride and groom, but my husband's cousin has a signature wedding move. About halfway through the reception he takes over the band DJ mic and sings this rockin' 60s pop song. I forget which one, but you'd know it. He really plays it up, belts it out. It's his moment in the spotlight and everyone loves it. Except in my husband's family there's like 60 cousins, so I've seen this move in dozens of weddings over the years. The first time it felt spontaneous and fun. But now I cringe as he heads up for the mic yet again. Groom's last name was White, so after the pastor announced that they were married, they marched out to Billy Idol's White Wedding. I leaned over to my wife and said, "Do they know what that song means?" I actually thought that she might have been pregnant. It was a nice moment when my wife said, "I think that because his last name and now hers is White, that they thought it was cute." My Mill and her husband, Mr. Jones' first dance was to me and Mrs. Jones. I know they thought it was cute, but he cheated on her in the past, and with the song being about an affair, I just turned and looked at my now husband in complete disbelief. They bought an apple orchard after leaving the city to live a simpler life, and really doubled down on the apple theme. Apples everywhere, on the tables, in baskets all around the venue, on the podium where they got married, pictures of apples hanging everywhere, small fake trees with apples tossed under them. The dude marrying them had an apple tie on, apples somehow incorporated into every dish for the reception. The cake was shaped like an apple. It was really fucking bizarre. They sold the orchard a couple years later because they had no idea what they were doing. When I was reading the first few apple themed things, I was like, "Oh, that's cute," but then the list kept going. LMAO.